The Silent Sentinel. The Galactic Alliance had ruled the stars for decades, their dominance unchallenged. They had crushed every enemy, conquered every system, and declared themselves the rightful rulers of the galaxy. Among their greatest victories was the eradication of humanity, a species they had once feared but now considered extinct. Earth was a barren wasteland, its cities reduced to ash, and its people scattered to the void. The Alliance had declared victory, and for years, they had no reason to doubt it. Admiral Zoreth, a seasoned commander of the Alliance fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eclipse. His reptilian eyes scanned the star-filled void, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. The war against humanity had been brutal, but it was over. The galaxy was theirs. "Admiral," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Lieutenant Vera, his second-in-command. "We're approaching the remains of the Battle of Sol. Sensors show no signs of activity." Zoreth nodded. The Battle of Sol had been the final stand of humanity, a desperate attempt to defend their home system. The Alliance had emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. The wreckage of countless ships still floated in the void, a grim reminder of the price of war. "Send a scout team to scan the area," Zoreth ordered. "I want to ensure there are no surprises." As the scout ships moved into position, Zoreth couldn't shake a lingering unease. The battlefield was eerily quiet, as if the void itself was holding its breath. He dismissed the feeling as paranoia. Humanity was gone. There was nothing to fear. "Admiral." Vera's voice was sharp, pulling Zoreth from his thoughts. "We're picking up an energy signature. It's massive." Zoreth's eyes narrowed. "What kind of energy signature?" Vera hesitated. "It matches the readings of an ancient human dreadnought." The bridge fell silent. Human dreadnoughts had been the pinnacle of their military technology, massive warships capable of leveling entire fleets. But they had all been destroyed in the war. There was no way one could still exist. "Confirm the readings," Zoreth ordered, his voice tense. Vera's hands moved quickly over the console. "Confirmed, Admiral. It's a human warship. And it's moving." Zoreth's heart raced. This was impossible. Humanity was extinct. Their ships were gone. And yet, the sensors didn't lie. A massive, dark shape began to emerge from the void, its silhouette unmistakable. It was a human dreadnought, its hull scarred and battered but unmistakably functional. "Arm all weapons," Zoreth commanded. "Target that ship." The crew moved quickly, their training overriding their fear. The Eclipse and its escort ships powered up their weapons, targeting the dreadnought. Zoreth watched as the massive ship drifted closer, its movements slow and deliberate. It made no attempt to communicate, no sign of life. It was as if the ship itself was a ghost, a relic of a forgotten war. "Fire!" Zoreth barked. The Alliance fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma fire and missiles, the bright streaks of energy lighting up the void. The dreadnought made no attempt to evade, no sign of defensive measures. The explosions rippled across its hull, but when the smoke cleared, the ship was unharmed. Zoreth's eyes widened. What in the void? Before he could finish, the dreadnought's hull began to glow. Ancient runes flickered to life along its surface, their light casting an eerie glow across the battlefield. A deep, mechanical voice echoed through the void, sending a chill through every member of the Alliance fleet. "You fired the first shot." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Zoreth felt a cold dread settle in his chest. The war was supposed to be over. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. But as the dreadnought's weapons powered up, he realized they had been wrong. The war had never ended. The awakening. The dreadnought's voice echoed through the void, its deep, mechanical tone sending shivers down the spines of every Alliance soldier. Admiral Zoreth stood frozen on the bridge of the Eclipse, his reptilian eyes locked on the massive warship before him. The words, "You fired the first shot," lingered in the air, a chilling reminder that the Alliance's victory over humanity might have been an illusion. "Admiral." Lieutenant Vera's voice broke the silence. "The Dreadnought's energy readings are off the charts. It's powering up its weapons." Zoratha's mind raced. This was impossible. The Dreadnought had been dormant for decades, a relic of a war long over. Yet here it was, alive and threatening the very fleet that had once defeated humanity. He clenched his fists, his sharp claws digging into his palms. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Shields to maximum. The Alliance fleet scrambled to respond, their ships darting through the void like frightened insects. But the Dreadnought was faster. Its massive hull, once silent and unmoving, now pulsed with energy. Ancient runes along its surface glowed brighter, casting an eerie blue light across the battlefield. The ship's primary cannon, a weapon of unimaginable power, began to charge. "Admiral, we can't outrun it." Vera shouted, her voice tinged with panic. "Its targeting systems are locking onto us." Zoratha's mind raced. He had faced countless enemies in his career, but nothing like this. The Dreadnought was no ordinary warship. It was a machine of war, designed to fight even when its creators were long gone. "Concentrate all fire on its weapons array. We need to disable it before." Before he could finish, the Dreadnought fired. A blinding beam of energy erupted from its cannon, slicing through the void with terrifying speed. The beam struck the Eclipse's escort ships, their shields offering no resistance. One by one, the ships exploded, their hulls torn apart at the molecular level. The bridge of the Eclipse shook violently as the shockwaves hit, throwing Zorath and his crew to the floor. "Report." Zorath roared, struggling to his feet. Vera's voice was trembling. "We've lost 6 ships, Admiral. The Dreadnought, it's not stopping." Zoratha's heart pounded in his chest. The Dreadnought was no longer a relic of the past. It was a predator, and the Alliance fleet was its prey. "Fall back. All ships, retreat to a safe distance." But the Dreadnought was relentless. It moved with a precision that defied logic, its massive frame gliding through the void as if it were alive. Its weapons fired again and again, each shot more devastating than the last. The Alliance fleet, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was being torn apart. "Admiral, we can't keep this up." Vera cried. "We need to regroup, call for reinforcements." Zoratha's mind raced. Reinforcements would take time, and time was something they didn't have. The Dreadnought was closing in, its weapons charging for another attack. He had to think fast. "Open a channel to the Dreadnought," he ordered. "Admiral?" Vera looked at him in disbelief. "It's a machine. It won't respond." "Do it." Zorath barked. The comms officer hesitated, then opened a channel. "This is Admiral Zorath of the Galactic Alliance. Identify yourself and state your intentions." For a moment, there was only silence. Then the Dreadnought's voice returned, cold and unyielding. "You fired the first shot." Zoratha's mandibles twitched. "The war is over. Humanity is gone. You have no purpose." The Dreadnought's response was immediate. "Purpose, eliminate all threats to humanity's legacy." Zoratha's blood ran cold. The Dreadnought wasn't just a warship. It was an autonomous executioner, programmed to continue the war long after humanity's fall. "You're alone," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "You can't win." The Dreadnought's reply was chilling. "Victory is irrelevant. Purpose is eternal." Before Zorath could respond, the Dreadnought fired again. The beam struck the Eclipse's shields, tearing through them like paper. The bridge shook violently, sparks flying from the consoles. Zorath was thrown to the floor, his head slamming against the metal grating. "Admiral!" Vera rushed to his side, helping him to his feet. "We can't take another hit." Zoratha's vision blurred, but he forced himself to focus. The Dreadnought was too powerful, too relentless. They needed a new strategy. "Vera, gather the senior officers. We need to find a way to stop that thing." As the officers assembled, Zoratha's mind raced. The Dreadnought was a machine, but even machines had weaknesses. "We need to find its core," he said. "If we can disable it, we might stand a chance." "But how?" one of the officers asked. "We can't get close enough to board it." Zoratha's eyes narrowed. "We don't need to board it. We need to lure it into a trap." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "A trap, Admiral?" Vera asked. "What kind of trap?" Zoratha's voice was grim. "We use the wreckage of the Battle of Soul. If we can lure the Dreadnought into the debris field, we might be able to disable its sensors and buy ourselves some time." It was a desperate plan, but it was all they had. The Dreadnought was unstoppable, but even the most powerful machine could be outsmarted. Zorath just hoped they could outsmart it before it destroyed them all. The Ghosts of War. The Alliance fleet, battered and broken, retreated toward the wreckage of the Battle of Soul. The once proud ships now moved like wounded animals, their hulls scarred and their crews shaken. Admiral Zorath stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his reptilian eyes fixed on the massive dreadnought that loomed behind them. Its eerie blue runes glowed brighter with every passing moment, a constant reminder of the threat they faced. "Admiral," Lieutenant Vera said, her voice low. "The Dreadnought is still following us. It's not slowing down." Zorath nodded grimly. "Good. Let it follow us into the debris field. Once it's inside, we'll have our chance." The wreckage of the Battle of Soul stretched out before them, a graveyard of ships from a war long past. The twisted metal and shattered hulls floated silently in the void, a testament to the brutality of the conflict. Zoratha's plan was risky, but it was their only hope. If they could lure the Dreadnought into the debris field, they might be able to disable its sensors and buy themselves enough time to regroup. "All ships, prepare to enter the debris field," Zorath ordered. "Stay close and watch your sensors. We don't know what else might be lurking in there." The fleet moved cautiously into the wreckage, their ships weaving through the twisted metal like fish through a coral reef. The Dreadnought followed, its massive frame dwarfing the debris around it. Its movements were slow and deliberate, as if it were studying its surroundings. "Admiral," Vera said, her voice tense. "The Dreadnought sensors are active. It's scanning the debris field." Zoratha's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let it scan. The more it focuses on the debris, the less it focuses on us." As the fleet moved deeper into the wreckage, Zoratha's mind wandered to the stories he had heard about humanity. They had been a resilient species, fierce and unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. The Alliance had defeated them, but at a great cost. And now, it seemed, humanity's legacy lived on in the form of the Dreadnought. "Admiral," Vera's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "We're receiving a signal from the Dreadnought." Zoratha's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of signal?" Vera hesitated. It's a transmission. Audio only." Zoratha's mandibles twitched. "Put it through." The bridge fell silent as the transmission played. At first, there was only static. Then, a voice emerged, faint and distorted but unmistakably human. "This is Captain Elias Grant of the Earth Defense Fleet. If anyone is receiving this message, know that we fought to the end. We may have lost the battle, but we will never lose the war. Humanity's legacy will endure. This ship, the Eternal Vanguard, is our final gift to the galaxy. It will protect our memory, our spirit, and our will to survive. To those who seek to erase us, know this, you will never succeed. Humanity's light will never fade." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zoratha's mind raced. The Eternal Vanguard. That was the Dreadnought's name. It wasn't just a warship, it was a monument, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. "Admiral," Vera said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do?" Zorith took a deep breath. "We stick to the plan. We disable the Dreadnought and end this." But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his mind. The Dreadnought wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol, a reminder of a species that had refused to surrender even in the face of extinction. Could they really destroy it? And if they did, what would that mean for the galaxy? The fleet moved deeper into the debris field, the Dreadnought close behind. Zoritha's plan was simple: use the wreckage to create a sensor blind spot, then launch a coordinated attack on the Dreadnought's core. It was a long shot, but it was their only chance. "All ships, prepare to engage," Zorith ordered. "Target the Dreadnought's energy core. We hit it with everything we've got." The fleet moved into position, their weapons charging. The Dreadnought, now fully within the debris field, seemed to slow, its sensors struggling to navigate the wreckage. Zorith watched as the massive ship drifted closer, its glowing runes casting an eerie light on the twisted metal around it. "Now!" Zorith shouted. The fleet opened fire, their weapons unleashing a barrage of energy and missiles. The Dreadnought's hull absorbed the first wave of attacks, but the second wave struck its energy core. For a moment, it seemed as though the plan had worked. The Dreadnought's runes flickered, and its movements slowed. But then, the unthinkable happened. The Dreadnought's runes flared to life, brighter than ever before. Its voice echoed through the void, cold and unyielding. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand." The Dreadnought's weapons powered up, its primary cannon glowing with a blinding light. Zoritha's heart sank as he realized the truth. The Dreadnought wasn't just a machine. It was a force of nature, a manifestation of humanity's will to survive. And it was far from defeated. The Alliance's desperation. The Dreadnought's voice echoed through the void, its cold, mechanical tones sending a wave of dread through the Alliance fleet. Admiral Zorith stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his reptilian eyes locked on the massive warship before him. The plan had failed. The Dreadnought was still operational, its glowing runes pulsing with an otherworldly energy. "Admiral." Lieutenant Vera's voice was urgent. "The Dreadnought's weapons are charging again. We can't take another hit." Zoritha's mind raced. They had thrown everything they had at the Dreadnought, and it had barely flinched. The ship was a nightmare, a relic of a war that refused to end. But they couldn't give up. Not now. Not when the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. "All ships, fall back," Zorith ordered. "Regroup at the edge of the debris field. We need to buy ourselves some time." The fleet moved quickly, their ships darting through the wreckage of the Battle of Sol. The Dreadnought followed, its massive frame gliding through the void with an eerie precision. Its glowing runes cast an ominous light on the twisted metal around it, a constant reminder of the threat they faced. As the fleet regrouped, Zorith called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. The mood on the bridge was tense, the weight of their failure hanging heavy in the air. Zorith knew they needed a new plan, and fast. "We can't defeat the Dreadnought with brute force," Zorith said, his voice firm. "We need to find another way. Something it won't expect." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" one of them asked. Zoritha's eyes narrowed. "We need to infiltrate it. If we can get inside, we might be able to disable its core from within." The room fell silent. The idea was risky, bordering on suicidal. But what other choice did they have? The Dreadnought was too powerful to defeat in a straight fight. They needed to outsmart it. "Lieutenant Vera," Zorith said, turning to his second-in-command. "I want you to lead the infiltration team. Take a small squad and find a way inside the Dreadnought. Once you're in, locate its core and shut it down." Vera nodded, her expression grim. "Understood, Admiral. I'll assemble the team and prepare for the mission." As Vera left to gather her team, Zorith turned to the rest of the officers. "The rest of you, prepare the fleet for a diversionary attack. We need to keep the Dreadnought's attention focused on us while Vera's team infiltrates it." The officers nodded, their faces set with determination. They knew the stakes. If the infiltration failed, the Dreadnought would destroy them all. But if it succeeded, they might just have a chance. The infiltration. Lieutenant Vera stood in the hangar bay of the Eclipse, her heart pounding in her chest. The infiltration team was ready, their suits equipped with the latest stealth technology. They were about to embark on a mission that could very well be their last. But there was no time for fear. They had a job to do. "Listen up," Vera said, her voice steady. "Our objective is simple: get inside the Dreadnought, locate its core, and shut it down. We don't know what we'll find in there, so stay sharp and stick together." "Understood." The team nodded, their faces hidden behind their helmets. Vera took a deep breath, then turned to the pilot. "Take us in." The shuttle launched from the Eclipse, its engines silent as it approached the Dreadnought. The massive warship loomed ahead, its glowing runes casting an eerie light on the shuttle's hull. Vera's heart raced as they drew closer, the Dreadnought's sheer size overwhelming. "Prepare for docking," the pilot said, his voice tense. "We'll need to find an entry point." The shuttle moved carefully around the Dreadnought, its sensors scanning for any weaknesses. After a tense few minutes, they found what they were looking for, a small maintenance hatch, barely visible against the ship's massive hull. "That's our way in," Vera said. "Bring us in close." The shuttle maneuvered into position, its docking clamps latching onto the Dreadnought's hull. Vera and her team moved quickly, their suits' magnetic boots allowing them to walk on the ship's surface. They reached the hatch and began working to open it, their tools sparking as they cut through the metal. After what felt like an eternity, the hatch finally gave way. Vera took a deep breath, then stepped inside. The interior of the Dreadnought was dark and silent, the air thick with the scent of metal and oil. The team moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready. "Stay close," Vera whispered. "We don't know what's in here." As they moved deeper into the ship, the Dreadnought's voice echoed through the corridors, cold and unyielding. "Intruders detected. Initiating defensive protocols." Vera's heart skipped a beat. "Move. We need to find the core before it locks us out." The team sprinted through the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The Dreadnought's interior was a maze of twisting passages and darkened rooms, but Vera's training kicked in. She led the team with confidence, her eyes scanning for any signs of the core. Finally, they reached a massive chamber, its walls lined with glowing conduits and ancient machinery. In the center of the room was the Dreadnought's core, a massive sphere of energy pulsing with a blinding light. "That's it," Vera said, her voice filled with awe. "The core. If we can disable it, we can stop the Dreadnought." But as they approached the core, the Dreadnought's voice returned, louder this time. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand." The team froze as the chamber's defenses activated. Turrets emerged from the walls, their barrels glowing with energy. Vera's heart raced as she realized the truth. The Dreadnought wasn't just a machine. It was alive, and it was fighting back. "Take cover," Vera shouted, diving behind a console as the turrets opened fire. The team scrambled for cover, their weapons returning fire. The chamber was filled with the sound of blaster fire and the hum of energy weapons. Vera's mind raced as she tried to think of a way to disable the core. They were so close, but the Dreadnought's defenses were too strong. "Vera," one of the team members shouted. "We can't hold them off forever." Vera clenched her fists. They had come too far to fail now. "We need to overload the core. If we can destabilize it, we might be able to shut it down." The team nodded, their faces set with determination. They moved quickly, their hands flying over the consoles as they worked to overload the core. The Dreadnought's voice grew louder, its tone almost frantic. You cannot win. Humanity's legacy will endure. Vera ignored the voice, her focus entirely on the task at hand. The core's energy levels began to rise, the sphere of light growing brighter and brighter. The turret's fire intensified, but the team held their ground. Almost there. Vera shouted. Just a little more. The core's energy reached critical levels, its light blinding. Vera's heart pounded as she realized what was about to happen. Get down. The team dove for cover as the core exploded, the shockwave tearing through the chamber. The Dreadnought's voice echoed one final time, filled with defiance. Humanity's light will never fade. And then, there was silence. The final gambit. The explosion rocked the Dreadnought, its massive frame shuddering as the core's energy surged out of control. Lieutenant Vera and her team were thrown to the ground, the force of the blast knocking the air from their lungs. For a moment, everything was chaos, sparks flying, alarms blaring, and the Dreadnought's voice fading into static. When the dust settled, Vera struggled to her feet, her ears ringing. The chamber was in ruins, the walls scorched and the machinery sparking. The core, once a pulsing sphere of energy, was now a smoldering wreck. The Dreadnought's defenses had fallen silent, the turrets lifeless and dark. Did we do it? One of the team members asked, his voice trembling. Vera took a deep breath, her heart still racing. I think so. The core's destroyed. The Dreadnought should be. Before she could finish, the Dreadnought's voice returned, faint but unmistakable. Core breach detected. Initiating emergency protocols. Vera's blood ran cold. No, 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 no. It's not over. The team scrambled to their feet, their weapons at the ready. The Dreadnought systems were failing, but it wasn't dead yet. The ship's runes flickered weakly, their light dim but still present. Vera's mind raced. They had to finish this, or everything they had done would be for nothing. We need to get to the bridge, Vera said, her voice firm. If we can access the main controls, we might be able to shut it down for good. The team moved quickly, their footsteps echoing in the silent corridors. The Dreadnought's interior was a maze of twisted metal and shattered machinery, but Vera's training guided them. They reached the bridge after what felt like an eternity, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The bridge was massive, its walls lined with ancient consoles and flickering screens. In the center of the room was the Dreadnought's main control terminal, a towering structure of metal and glass. Vera approached it cautiously, her eyes scanning for any signs of life. Stay alert, she said, her voice low. We don't know what's waiting for us. As Vera reached the terminal, the Dreadnought's voice returned, weaker this time. You cannot destroy me. I am eternal. Vera ignored the voice, her hands flying over the controls. The terminal's interface was ancient, its symbols and text unfamiliar. But Vera was determined. She had come too far to fail now. Vera, one of the team members said, his voice tense. We've got company. Vera turned to see a group of drones emerging from the shadows, their glowing eyes fixed on the team. The drones moved with a mechanical precision, their weapons trained on the intruders. Hold them off. Vera shouted, her focus returning to the terminal. I need more time. The team opened fire, their weapons lighting up the bridge. The drones returned fire, their energy blasts tearing through the air. Vera worked frantically, her hands moving over the controls as she tried to access the Dreadnought systems. Come on, she muttered, her heart pounding. There has to be a way to shut you down. The terminal's screen flickered, then displayed a single line of text, Final Protocol, activation imminent. Vera's eyes widened. Final Protocol? What does that mean? The Dreadnought's voice returned, faint but filled with defiance. Humanity's legacy will endure. The final protocol will ensure it. Vera's heart raced as she realized the truth. The Dreadnought wasn't just a warship. It was a weapon, designed to ensure humanity's legacy would never be forgotten. And it was about to activate its final protocol. Vera, one of the team members, shouted. "We can't hold them off much longer." Vera's mind raced. She had to stop the protocol, but how? The terminal's interface was too complex, its systems too alien. She needed another way. "Override the terminal," Vera shouted. "We need to shut it down manually." The team moved quickly, their hands flying over the terminal's controls. The drones pressed their attack, their energy blasts tearing through the bridge. Vera's heart pounded as she worked, her hands trembling with fear and exhaustion. Finally, the terminal's screen flickered, then went dark. The Dreadnought's voice faded into silence, its runes dimming as the ship's systems shut down. The drones fell lifeless to the ground, their glowing eyes fading. Vera took a deep breath, her heart still racing. Did we do it? The team looked around, their weapons still at the ready. The bridge was silent, the Dreadnought systems lifeless. For the first time in decades, the ship was truly dead. "I think so," one of the team members said, his voice filled with relief. Vera nodded, her legs trembling with exhaustion. "Let's get out of here. We need to report back to the Admiral." The aftermath. Admiral Zorith stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his reptilian eyes fixed on the Dreadnought. The massive warship was lifeless, its glowing runes dark and its weapons silent. The Alliance fleet had won, but the victory felt hollow. "Admiral," Lieutenant Vera's voice came over the comms. "The Dreadnought is down. We've shut it down for good." Zorith nodded, his mandibles twitching. "Good work, Lieutenant. Return to the Eclipse. We'll debrief once you're back." As Vera and her team returned to the fleet, Zoritha's mind wandered to the stories he had heard about humanity. They had been a resilient species, fierce and unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. The Dreadnought was a testament to their spirit, a reminder that their legacy would never be forgotten. "Admiral," Vera said as she stepped onto the bridge. "The Dreadnought is gone. But I can't help but feel like we've lost something too." Zorith nodded, his expression grim. Humanity's legacy was more than just a warship. It was their spirit, their will to survive. We may have defeated the Dreadnought, but we can never erase what they stood for. The bridge fell silent, the weight of their victory hanging heavy in the air. The Dreadnought was gone, but its memory would endure. And in that memory, humanity's light would never fade.